And so Aaron usually is the one who likes to voice up and talk about kind of do the introduction and whatnot. But like I said, we're recording a little bit of this meeting. And so we kind of like to go forward with a little bit of an introduction of Southern Oregon Family Farms, how it came to be and what we intend to do. And so you know, I was attending a lot of trade shows and different, not trade shows, but trade meetings, you know, like what do you call those groups where we got together specifically in the Josephine County area. And for years we were talking about like, we got to get a co-op together, let's get a co-op together. But it seems like the pain wasn't quite there. But this year there definitely is pain. And so I think that brought a lot of people together because it opened people's eyes, and really we kind of see the writing on the wall now that as small farms, we need to come together. And even I, who am not a small farmer, is feeling the pain of the rock bottom prices that farmers are getting. And so we are getting together because we realize that wholesale companies are not necessarily as reliable as they may have once been. We need to own the direct to dispensary channels and to really try to own our sales and whatnot. And there's no better way to do that than to come together and really try to co-op a lot of the sales channels as well as expenses. So there is like kind of the short run needing to ease the pain of high supply, low demand, and instead, you know, try to kind of start owning the market. And then on the other hand, interstate commerce is on the horizon. And in order for us to be able to compete with large money and whatnot, we need to be able to come together and work together so that we can position ourselves to take advantage of that opportunity as well. So with that said, I want to turn it over to our farm members and give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. So I'm just going to go ahead and go straight off of Zoom and start choosing people. Devin, you want to introduce yourself and your farm? 30 seconds, please. Keep it to 30 seconds if you can help it.
Hi, my name's Devin. I'm owner grower of Circle D Farms and full sun grown. We just actually got in yesterday. Awesome no rain, living soil, salt supplement. Yeah, most in-house genetics, and here we are. My partner Christine, she will be joining later, but it's basically the same. 2 farms, 1 property.
Right on. Christine, you're here. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Christine Miller. I'm the owner and grower of Southern Oregon Moonshine. We are a full sun, living soil, tier 2 craft cannabis farm. I'm a 2nd generation cannabis farmer and just out here doing what I love.
Right on, right on. And our newest official member now, Tyler. You want to introduce yourself?
Guys, Tyler with Coomba Hills Farms, and we're a tier 2 living soil light depth farm, 30 houses, almost wrapped up with harvest. Looking forward to that. We also do a large clone program in the spring, and we're just trying to stay above water at this point.
Right on. And Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I am co-owner of Green Bandit. My husband, Brian, and I own and operate. We are a tier 2 full-term sun-grown farm. We are all organic, growing in the native soil, regenerative farming practices. We are in the process of getting our Sun and Earth certification, which should be going through this December. We took home a few awards from the Leaf Bowl this year, and yeah, I think that covers it. Oh, we have We also have a line of pre-roll packs and prepackaged flour that is in all compostable packaging. Sustainability is a huge importance to us. So we're definitely always going to be advocating for that as well.
Right on. And Patrick is here.
Hey guys, Patrick. Ganja, tier 2 sun grown. Just in the midst of harvest right now, so I'm just gonna keep it short and mute myself and just listen if that's good.
That's cool. Let's see here. And then I am Justin Bautier, currently board treasurer, founding one of the handful of founding members. I'm CEO of Calyx CPA based in Southern Oregon. We do a lot of tax planning and accounting for the cannabis industry. And taxes are can be a business's #1 expense outside of payroll. So it's really important that you have a conversation with a good accountant. Make sure that your business entity formula is optimized so that you're not losing tax benefits based on the way your entity is formed. And then, of course, there's 471C, which we use to mitigate 280E. I know that's like kind of highbrow conversation, but those of you who've felt the pain of 280E may know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's me. Let's go ahead and move to our guests. And we've got Noah, who's an applicant, but we have yet to have officially voted Noah onto the board just yet, based on some policies that we are trying to develop so that he fits nice and tidy with the group. Noah, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? You're on mute. You're on mute. Mm-hmm.
Let's see it. All right. Sorry about that. Noah, co-owner of Benson Arbor. We're 4 tier 2s. Pretty much fully organic, minus our clone operation is still working to get away from cloning gels. But we grow in native soil, we breed, we hunt from seed. Yeah, pre-roll line. That's probably 70% of what we do these days. We have oil partners like white label extracts. Yeah.
Right on. Thank you. And then we've got Alan. No, Alan, let's let Matt go. Matt, because he's also with Benson Arbor.
Hey everybody, co-owner of Benson Arbor, and been working with Noah for about going on 7 years now. My focus is mainly outside with the plants. As you know, we're multiple tier 2s, all native soil, and just trying to make it through these tough times at the moment, and currently harvesting as we speak.
Right on. Hey, Brandy, did you want to introduce yourself too?
Sorry, I work for Devin and Christine. I do their office stuff. I'm in charge of making sure we're compliant, and I don't know. That's all I want to say.
And super helpful to the goings on of the co-op. Thank you, Brandy. And so, Alan, I want to give you this time to introduce yourself, and then to go ahead, feel free to take some time. Let us know a little bit about your you and your company, because you're a first-time guest.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the invite. My name's Alan Clark, and we're a mixed tier 2 organic farm in Coos County. We're on the coast. We've had our license since 2016, and same thing. Like, we're trying to make it. We understand that each section of the state has its own tests and difficulties, but sustainability we're big on. Yeah, we're fighting the same battle, and looking for allies.
Right on, Alan. Yeah, and then of course, Andrew, I'm sorry, I forgot to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, but I think it's a little bit of a smaller group today, so we're gonna have plenty of time to hash out some of the stuff that we want to hash out. So Andrew, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then give us an update on the goings on in regard to the federal and state policies and those kinds of things that you know of around cannabis.
Sure. I'm Andrew DeWeese. I'm a partner at Greenlight Law Group in Portland, Seattle as well. I think what you're referring to is the conversation we had about the Dormant Commerce Clause. So if you guys know, the US Constitution is the supreme law of the land in the United States. It contains a provision that is known as the Commerce Clause. What the Commerce Clause says is that Congress shall have the authority to regulate commerce between the several states. What naturally arises out of that is called the Dormant Commerce Clause, and that is that states are not allowed to regulate commerce, except under certain circumstances, between the several states. So the Dormant Commerce Clause has been used in litigation by people who are working against state regulations on cannabis. So the recent success that people have had is a case out of Maine, out of the First Circuit Court of Appeals, which is a federal circuit that covers Maine, New England, and actually Puerto Rico's in there too. The lawsuit was a guy from New York wanted to get or wanted to have an interest in a Maine medical marijuana license. Maine law, the state law, prevents non-Maine residents from obtaining a medical marijuana license. The guy from New York sued the state of Maine, saying that restriction, residency requirement, violated the Dormant Commerce Clause, and he won in the Court of Appeals. What that tells us, or what I believe and many other observers believe it tells us, is that federal courts are now open to the idea that marijuana, THC marijuana, though it may be a Schedule I narcotic under the federal CSA, is not exempt from the Dormant Commerce Clause provisions. And what that may mean is that state laws restricting the import and export of marijuana are invalid under the Dormant Commerce Clause. So I'm working with someone to prepare a lawsuit against the state of Oregon to strike down the Dormant Commerce Clause, to strike down the law prohibiting export. If that lawsuit is successful, it won't necessarily immediately open the doors to interstate commerce. Remember that everything is still federally illegal. There will still be laws in, say somebody wanted to export to Nevada, there would still be a law in Nevada restricting the import from out of state. Now, if it went up to, if we won and it went up to or if we lost and we then won on appeal to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which covers both Oregon and Nevada, California and Washington, Nevada would probably be bound by that decision, and their import laws would also be struck down. So we don't know where the federal government would come down on that. They have.
Can we get to the farm in 10 minutes?
Sorry? Did somebody have a question?
No, he just accidentally spoke when he wasn't on mute.
I had a quick question. Andrew, is there do you have intent to like partner with other firms in like Nevada so that you could dismantle it on both sides so that we could cross the border?
Well, I don't know anybody over there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to it at all.
Because that's the other way, from what I hear you say, around getting around the federal
prohibition side is if both states allowed import and export, could we send to adjacent states like California and
Right. Right. I mean, it's not a bad idea. It would be, the problem is that anytime you are suing the federal government, or excuse me, suing a state, and you're in federal court and you're a marijuana producer, you're basically making the judicial admission that you're violating federal law, federal criminal law. So it's been not the easiest thing to find a plaintiff. I have found someone here in Oregon. You guys probably all know him, but I don't know anybody in Nevada at all. I don't know any producers in California who I've reached out to. I don't know many people down there. So if there's interest among this group in making introductions and talking about doing something that's multi-pronged, going against 2 states at the same time, for example, it's certainly something that I think is worthwhile and I'd be interested in doing. At present, though, that's the plan, is to just have an Oregon licensee suing the state of Oregon.
Do you have a kind of like how this an idea of how this would be somewhat of a chain reaction and some of the other barriers? I mean, obviously the federal government, well, what was interesting to me when we talked the first time was that it's actually not the federal government enforcing interstate commerce laws at this time, even though they very well could and may have a presence. It's actually the states picking up people across borders. So,
That's right.
So could you like articulate on what you see as happening in terms of like the domino effects that would eventually lead to interstate commerce? You've already mentioned a few, but what would then be like, what would then I mean, at some point, the federal government would have to like be like, okay, we're not going to now enforce the interstate commerce laws, similar to the fact that they are not enforcing federal, making moves for federal enforcement in legal operations in the legal states. I would imagine they'd have to say something like, and we are not going to restrict you know, the products from being shipped across state lines, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what the I don't know what the reaction from folks is going to be. I know that a lot of people are not too happy. A lot of people won't be happy that this is happening, especially in some of the, you know, producers in New York, for example, are not likely to be happy that this lawsuit is coming. They, you know, states where they have, you know, social equity programs that are restricted to the state residents are not going to be happy. There's already someone from Michigan suing the state of New York, saying that, you know, they're a justice qualified individual and they can't take advantage of that fact in New York because they're not a New York resident. You know, if we strike down the laws prohibiting import and export, the state laws, it may it may create a sense of urgency at the federal level to pass a federal legalization bill. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I just know that, you know, folks like you guys are the best marijuana growers in the country, and we are restricted from sending our product to anywhere else in Oregon. Consequently, you're getting rock bottom prices for the best weed in the world. And that's just a situation which I don't appreciate, and I am not going to allow it to continue if I can.
Right on. So what would, like, as far as like interstate commerce goes, I mean, and I know you're probably being more professional about it than I like to be in terms of speculating, but would you say that even if some of these interstate commerce laws, say like everything, say like the farms or the states decide to like just disregard, now that this is, it seems like it could potentially be open borders, and and the federal government stays mum, would there be, how would it have to happen in order for us to be able to move product or get product from one system, say the Oregon metric system, into say like the Nevada system? Like if can, like say Nevada, say like them disallowing imports or having to allow imports happens, will they be able to still shut it down because it's not part of the system and restrict imports based on the fact that we're not part of their, like essentially like their seed to sale system? I'm just kind of curious how all that would, I mean, if you have an opinion on that.
Yeah, so if we get this law prohibiting export stricken because it's unconstitutional, that will also mean that any rules which have the effect of restraining interstate commerce in a way that's not allowed under the jurisprudence we establish will also be unconstitutional. But they will hang around for a minute, right? Until Oregon sort of gets its act together and promulgates rules which are not unconstitutional. I imagine that that point that we'll see the OLCC, they may try to put in place some other rules which have the effect of restricting interstate commerce, but don't, maybe they'll have some kind of argument that they can still restrict it. So I think if we win this lawsuit, we'll be a step in the right direction, but it's not going to open things up right away. Because certainly, as you say, you still have to deal with the rules, and the rules have to be changed to allow interstate commerce and allow integration with other states' metric system and so forth. Because the fact that say we strike down the export law and the rules regarding metric don't change, well, fine, there's no state law restriction on export, but there is a state law that all transfers have to be recorded in metric, and those rules aren't changing. That could still be an issue. It'll be a foot in the door, but it's not going to take us the whole way.
Nice.
Tyler, do you have a question?
You guys pretty much covered it as you talked, so it's all good.
Okay.
So it sounds like this lawsuit against Maine, the investor did win, you're saying?
Yeah.
So that sets precedents now for other people like yourselves to strike down similar laws in various states.
So a decision in the First Circuit is not binding.
Okay.
It's not binding precedent on the Ninth Circuit, but it is what they call instructive precedent. And it's also not directly analogous because obviously a restriction on who can get a state license is somewhat different, at least conceptually, from what a law prohibiting the export of marijuana to another state, right? So in other words, one law essentially governs activities which can only occur within the state, while the other potentially opens up interstate commerce. So there, I expect that there will be arguments and there may be some differences, but I think it's worth a shot.
Very good, very good. Thank you, thank you. Does anybody have any more questions for Andrew?
I got a quick one. So I read that, I'm sure everybody saw it, that Biden changed the federal possession thing, which is kind of a joke inside itself because no one has federal minor possession charges, but and that they're especially not in jail for it. But do you think that that's going to open up a ripple effect as far as like political push on like who's willing to do more for the cannabis industry since it's growing so rapidly around the country?
I don't know. I tend to think that the political establishment may not look too favorably on this lawsuit because generally I think that people like Biden and his supporters want there to be a universal federal bill. They would rather not see the states, there not be a blanket federal bill legalizing marijuana. And I think, we've seen that in the CAOA, the various bills that have come out are heavily administrative, right? The CAOA will establish a completely new regulatory regime if it ever passed. So I don't know. I honestly don't know what the ultimate effect of Biden's proclamation is going to be. I know that it's not getting anybody out of jail, or I don't think it is. I think that it may result in rescheduling marijuana. I hope that if it does, it's at Schedule 3 or less, because then you guys would face a much lower tax burden. I think there's a good possibility of that. But I really don't know. The timing of it is very, I'm pretty cynical. So it's pretty manipulative to me to do it right before the election. This is something that he could have done a long time ago. So I think it was largely political, and I don't know that I necessarily see a ton of progress coming from it. There will be a ton of progress if it gets rescheduled to Schedule 3 or below, though, like I said, because that's gets you out of 280E.
Have you looked at one thing that we did look at, and I don't remember if we commented on this, the SHIP Act? Have you seen that yourself? Have you taken a look at that yourself?
The SHIP Act, what is that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a bill, and one of Christine or Aaron or whoever, if you recall correctly, that was brought up at one of our board meetings.
It was Ria.
Oh, it was from you? Yeah. And it looked like it kind of looked like a bill that was being proposed by a bunch of trade organizations as an appeal to allow craft farmers to be able to export over state lines, or get like favor when the opportunity arises. Yeah, Ria was the one who I think brought that to our attention.
Yeah,
But-
so I'm just looking at this now. It looks good. I mean, all of the right people are supporting it.
Do you know any of those people?
Well, yeah, so Origins Council, Humboldt County Growers Alliance, Farms Inc., Washington Sun Craft Growers Association, Vermont Growers Association, I mean, Big Sur Farmers Association, Trinity County, Sonoma County. These are all pretty good organizations. And it's by Earl is the guy who is a co-sponsor of it, and Jared Huffman from California. So I think it looks good to me. Now it's a post, like it says, it's a post legalization trigger bill, meaning that Congress has to act first. So, and I don't know how it would interact if our lawsuit is successful, because I haven't read the bill, but looks good to me.
Yeah, so it's appropriately timed, but it is something that Congress needs to have essentially given their blessing.
Yes.
At the very least.
It would, yeah. If so, it's been introduced in the House. It would have to pass the House and Senate, and then be signed by the president to be law. I wouldn't hold my breath for that to happen, unfortunately.
Right on. Any other questions for Andrew?
I'm happy to talk about other stuff as well, as long as it's useful.
Well, let me pull the members, and I mean, we do have an agenda. It's very thin. I think people are just they're farming now, they're harvesting. So our priorities have changed, and populating the agenda is somewhat limited, like in priority. So does anybody else? Oh, Alan?
Yes, with the lawsuit that I understand you're bringing to the state of Oregon, right? I understand that you have one licensee and there's a lawsuit with the state of Oregon. Would it be beneficial to have more licensees in that same lawsuit?
It might. I don't see how it could hurt things. And if anybody would like to be a plaintiff in that lawsuit, I guess it makes things slightly more complicated for me, because then every time we make a decision in the case, I need to talk to multiple people, but I'm fine doing that. If somebody else wants to take this on, I'd be happy to talk to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's something that, I mean, I think that the membership could definitely discuss too, as far as like, do we as a group want to get involved? And then the nice thing about how we roll is that we can talk amongst ourselves and like kind of come to like a unanimous decision on the things that are brought to us, so that when you hear back, it's one answer versus 10 answers.
Right.
So I don't know. That definitely is something that we could talk about, the farm members.
The only thing that I would be concerned about, and absolutely, if somebody wants to do this and be a plaintiff in it, I would love to take you on, of course. I often talk to people about not doing things that they want to do, because I really want people to have the benefit of my analysis, whether it's what they want to hear or not. I think that this will generate some bad feelings in other states, and I don't necessarily want you guys to be the target of that. I'm fine being the target of it, and my client is fine being the target of it. But I don't want this to be Oregon growers versus the world necessarily, and I think that dynamic could arise. So for whatever that is worth, the thought.
Well, I'm not sure if we would do it as like under the Southern Oregon Family Farms co-op, but we could be individually represented potentially, but just be of one voice.
Yeah.
And also we've kind of established that, what was it? We talked about this, like no publicity is bad publicity. Also, what else? I think there was a dozen like things that people like came up with in terms of like, hey, at least they're talking about us, those kinds of things.
Right.
Christine has her hand up.
Hi, I think for me, or maybe most of us, we were always thinking like Oregon's such a closed state and everybody's neighbor grows weed. So there's just like so much weed here. And we all like have this like idea that there's like not enough weed in other places. But what is your opinion on that? Like New York, they're just now setting up their program to like, and they're focusing more on people that have been impacted by the war on drugs. And if we become licensed, we're going to ruin their opportunity to get their businesses established in the first place. Like, how can we support them, but also be like, hey, we're here if you need more? Like, is there any way to, like, that sounds like, I don't want to do that to anybody.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I've thought about that a lot because I really support people in New York and what they're doing over there. I like their program. But I like our program too, and I like our farmers over here. And I know that there's already a lot of price pressure in New York. And it's from weed grown over here. It's already getting over there, guys. You know,
Is there any way to kind of reach out to those farmers? Because they're going to have to grow indoor there most likely. And is there any way that we could kind of set up relationships with our co-op and them to just like their brand, like co-branding or anything like that?
Well, there's a very good organization called CANI. It's the Cannabis Association of New York that I've been involved with for I don't know, almost maybe a year now or something. They're excellent and they're very effective, and they seem to have a similar ethos to a lot of the folks that I like over here, this group and so forth. I'm happy to put anybody who wants to be in touch with them in touch. They have a sustainability committee. They have, they're interested in co-ops. I know that the Office of Cannabis Management over in New York is also looking at co-op regulations. But, you know, when I think about this issue of, hey, we don't want to screw them up, I almost think like we should have done this lawsuit before so they didn't even have a chance to start. Because look at what happened in Oregon, guys. How many people got into the Oregon industry and totally failed and lost all their money because of what it turned into? What's going to happen in New York when a bunch of people, and they're all, you know, this is all, I mean, this is already happening. They gave out a bunch of licenses to outdoor hemp growers. So a lot of people grew a ton of outdoor weed in Oregon, in New York this season. There's a ton of moldy weed over there. It's not, I mean, there's some good quality for sure, but you know, all those people aren't going to survive either. You know, the market that we had in the US prior to legalization was really a national market where we produced over here and a lot of it got sold over there. It would be wonderful to, you know, I just don't think I understand that we're in some way interfering with some economic opportunity that people have in other states. But if you look at the country as a whole, it's sort of silly to think that you're going to have marijuana production, you know, operations in every state. They're just not suitable all the time.
Yeah, we don't grow like canola plant, like rapeseed here because it's not practical. So there's like pockets of exportation, and not only it's going to happen here, like there, just like it happened here as we opened up cannabis. It was like the green rush and housing prices skyrocketed. You can't find warehouse spaces for your other small businesses. It's not just the cannabis sector that's going to be impacted. It's going to be the like most vulnerable part of their community are going to be the most impacted people. So I think that's a great point, is maybe people, not every state should be like ramping up to grow. They should be making partnerships with us who we can grow here more like for lower cost, because our energy costs are so low and we have the best agricultural climate for it. So that's a great point.
Yeah, it's sort of, I mean, I hate to pull the rug out of anybody who's trying to be a marijuana producer in New York, but it seems sort of inevitable. We're going to get federal legalization at some point. I would like it to occur while, you know, some of you guys are still alive, honestly.
Maybe they should be opening dispensaries instead of farms.
Right. Noah, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just, Christine, wanted you to keep in mind the consumer too, who's out there, because we know indoor is really expensive. And so opening up access to Oregon cannabis means super high quality, affordable cannabis, medicine, whatever you want to call it, for the people. And without that, the affordable medicine will be moldy, you know, high humidity grown cannabis.
That's absolutely
Or
right.
pesticide ridden. California can't grow clean cannabis. You can't grow pesticide free cannabis in California very easily. And so we can produce clean. Yeah, that's great. It just brings a lot, like as like a small, like you're on your farm, you're kind of like in the trenches 24/7, and you have like these conceptions of what other things are going on, like what other people are doing, or like maybe that they have excess, or I don't know. It brings a lot to a lot of food for thought.
For sure. Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's the faster it happens, the better it is for everyone, because we're gonna undercut those markets no matter what, whether it's us personally or it's Nectar or it's big, huge companies in California. And the more that they set up, the more people are going to go bankrupt, the more people are going to lose the small businesses. And I mean, we're seeing it on small scale in our state where we're people that have grown weed for long time, multiple generations, and we can barely survive. And then you got people who have really never done it in these other states that are jumping into it, and they're going to go head to head with companies that have been doing it in their family for 50 plus years. So it's kind of a dual-edged sword, because we do, you know, we've seen the worst of it and we wouldn't wish it on anybody, but at the same time, it's an unfortunate inevitability.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe we should have done this earlier so nobody even got started over there. You know, that, and the other piece is, even if we didn't do it and they got started over there, the illicit market's not going away. They're, you know, they're all going to be competing still with weed from over here. Whether, I mean, and so might as well be from folks like you guys who are doing the right thing and are operating licensed businesses and not growing illegally. It's my take.
Right on, Andrew. Any final questions for Andrew? Christine, you froze.
Oh, sorry, crap. Where can we start with other states? Like, okay, New York's already done it. Like, what can we do to kind of put this idea out there so that we can get ahead of it? Is there any for other states besides New York that haven't quite gone legal yet that are considering it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, what we're going to do is file a lawsuit, you know, based on the Dormant Commerce Clause. And I think that, you know, maybe when people start reacting to it, saying, hey, you're destroying our ability to be cannabis farmers and, you know, wherever they are, because you're just going to make us compete with, you know, people in Oregon. We can just use all of these arguments saying that, you know, this is actually beneficial. This is the way, you know, this is the way the Constitution and the framers of the Constitution intended the country to work. You know, the idea that the social inequalities in our country and in our society can be fixed by awarding marijuana licenses to certain people, it's not a panacea for the ills facing us. You know, that's sort of my thought to social equity. It's very good and we need it, but we also, it's dangerous to prop up people artificially when we know that this is coming, because if we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. Number one. Number two, we are going to see federal legalization at some point, and they're going to have to compete with us sometime.
Do you think, I know you said that it could create some negative publicity, but to me it sounds like a pretty honorable fight. And do you think that when you bring this case, or when you start acting on this case, there could be benefits for having Southern Oregon Family Farms aligned with it or included in it, like as a co-op?
Yeah, there could be. I definitely, you know, say we win and the export law gets struck down, I think that would be the time to engage with local folks in local government and in Oregon state government to say, hey, this has gone away and we need you not to stand in the way here. of keeping in place regulations which have the effect of preventing what the court has just declared unconstitutional. I don't know that it makes a ton of difference to have, I appreciate it, for sure appreciate Alan's question about would having several people involved improve our chances. I think that as long as the plaintiff that I have has standing, work through it, like the court will consider the question, and the court's ruling on that question is going to be, in my opinion, the same whether we have one plaintiff or 50 plaintiffs, because it's a constitutional question. It's not, how many people is this affecting? If it affected one person, it would be the same answer.
Well, I think, Alan definitely brought up a great point, but it feels like a little bit of an opportunity, forgetting the name, because I'm not a farm owner, but I feel like I am concerned about optics.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, would it be good optics?
Right. Would it be good
family farms
for the co-op to be a plaintiff in a lawsuit that's probably going to get some national news?
Yeah. So maybe that's something that, if you could, maybe if we could talk a little bit more after this meeting, maybe you could email us and let us know what, signing on with you would be, what the process of that would be like and what we would need to do in order to fulfill that. And we could bring it back to the membership and see if it's something that we want to do as an organization or individually or whatever. But it would be pretty cool to be have the Southern Oregon Family Farms and go down in history a little bit.
Yeah,
with you guys.
I agree.
It'd be pretty cool with that. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. I have another appointment at 11, so I'm going to pass at 11. I'm going to pass the control of the administration of the Zoom meeting over to Aaron.